Okay, Rabotai, we're starting on Daf Chaf Tet Amud Bet 29B2 in the art scroll. We're middle of the topic of of actually starting a new topic about writing down a a loan. Okay, an admission of a loan. Okay. Why would someone want to write it down versus not writing it down? So if you take a look in note 12, page 29B2, it says over here, from the debtor's point of view, there are numerous disadvantages. So the person who's borrowing the money, he has a disadvantage if he gets the obligation recorded in a note. When you have it in a note, in a letter, in a star, there's a lien on the property. So, for example, if I'm borrowing money from you, we have it written down in a document, then you can come with that document, and instead of taking my $100 or whatever, my $5,000, whatever I owe you, you can go and take my property, the amount for that, because you have it in a note. If we never made a note, and it was just a verbal agreement that we're borrowing money just in front of witnesses, but not written down, I owe you the money, and you cannot take it from my property. That's one difference. Number two, if a debt is recorded, the debtor is unable to claim that he paid it off as long as the creditor retains possession of the note. Meaning, if you still have the note on you, no one can believe me that I say I paid you already. Because if I would have paid you, that note would have been taken care of, would have got rid of it because I paid you. The fact that you still have the note means you can still collect. So those are the two advantages for you, the person who's loaning the money, and disadvantages for me. So therefore, since it'll be a disadvantage to me, it says over here on the top of in the notes column, according to witnesses are not empowered to draw up a note unless I, the person who's borrowing, instructs them to. However, there are sometimes certain things that I would do that would show that it's okay for it to be written down. So usually I have to say it has to be, I allow it to be written down because it's a disadvantage to me, the borrower. Or sometimes there's some stuff that I would do that would show that it's okay to be written down. Okay, so let's start with the Gemara. So if I admitted in front of two people that I borrowed $5,000 from you, okay, let's be an example. So we have me and you, and we have Reuben and Shimon standing here. So I say to Reuben and Shimon, please be our witnesses. I borrowed $5,000 from Solomon. Then I do a kinyan. I pick something up. I say, now I'm doing a kinyan hagbah, an acquisition via picking something up. That's one of the kinyans. And now that I made a kinyan, which solidified my statement, kotvin. Now those witnesses, they can go ahead and write a note and give it to you. Because once I did a kinyan, that showed that it was a serious matter and everybody knows it, and I'm okay with everybody knowing it. And this way, now you have the note, and now you have the advantage of taking from my property. And as long as you have the note, I still owe you the money. The imlav, if I didn't make a kinyan, I just told Reuben and Shimon I owe you $5,000, but I never did a kinyan hagwa. I never picked anything up. And they cannot write anything down. Simple enough. That's the deal. Now, I didn't do it in front of two witnesses. Did it in front of three witnesses, Reuben, Shimon, and Levi. And I didn't do any kinyan. I didn't pick it up. Does having three witnesses change it? And now it's more serious because maybe three witnesses is similar to a bet din. In the bet din, you have three. It's in front of a court. Maybe it's more serious. Maybe I can write it down or not. So let's see. Rav Ami says, you write it. Like a bet din. Have the authority of a bet din. Therefore, it's more serious. He doesn't have to do a kinyan, and you can write it down. Rav Asi says, ain't koitzman. No, you don't write it. I don't care. They have 3, they have 6, they have 20. They're witnesses. They're only witnesses. They're not a victim. Therefore, no more serious than a regular thing in front of two witnesses. Therefore, you cannot write down the obligation. You can't write it down. You can't write down the debt without his express permission. Haba Uvda happened that like this the case. So it was in front of three people. Rav, Asi, and Rav considered Rav Asi's opinion and did not allow the witnesses to write it down, those three witnesses to write it down, because Rav Asi said that you don't write it down. Who cares how many witnesses there? They're not a bit, and they're witnesses. The Gemara continues. Amravada Barahava Ha'odita Zminan Katvinan Vizimnan Loy Katvinan. This is a note of admission. Well, I admit, and they want to write down the witnesses. Sometimes they write it, and sometimes they don't write it. Kenifei v'yetfei lo katvinan. Kadfinhu yeyu katvinan. Oh, he says, when it's in front of three, sometimes they write it, sometimes they don't. It depends. If me and you were walking and I owe you $5,000, and on a bench was sitting Reuben, Shimon, and Levi. We see Reuben, Shimon, and Levi sitting there. So I turn to Shimon and Levi and I say, Shimon, Shimon, Levi, you my witnesses, I'm making you witnesses that I owe $5,000 or something. So they were there. I saw them. So then if I did it like that, you cannot write it down. But let's say me and you, I owe you the money, and we don't have the three people just sitting on the bench. So we went ahead and we gathered three people. Now that we gathered it, it's as if it's a bad thing. Stop three people sitting on the bench, and I tell them, fine, those witnesses. If I gather them, now they have more of authority of a bit. That's what Rav Ada Bar Hava wants to make a distinction. Whether they were there or you got them there. You got them there, then they have authority to vet them. Then you can write it down if I admit it in front of them. But if they were just already there from beforehand, then you cannot write it down. Rabbi says, no. I feel confused. He says to them, Rabbi says, no, that's not the halacha. Even if I gathered them, they are not considered a betin until I tell them, you're my dayonim, you're my judges. If I just gathered them, who cares? They were there, they were not there. They were there and I talked to them. I gathered them, I talked to them. I never told them the judges. I told them they think they're witnesses. Who said they're judges? Therefore, until I say they're judges, they're not judges. And therefore, you can't write it down, even if you gathered them. Mar Barab Ashi Omar, he goes even further and says, Omar, I feel Omar have Allah Dayoni. Even if they say, even if I say to them, you're my judges, like Katvino, they're not allowed to write it down. The only time it works with Betin, and Allah follows Mar Barab Ashi, he's the last saying on this topic. He says, even if I tell them you're my judges, you cannot write down the debt until the whole court process is in place. Meaning, they send out, they call me, that we come together to the Betin, and we say it in Betin, and the whole thing's done as a regular Betin process. Then it can be written down. Stamp three guys there, not there. You told them you didn't, doesn't make a difference. It has to have gone through a normal court procedures in order for it to be written down without the express permission of the person who owes the money. So far, so good? Fine. Gemara is going to continue to clarify. Okay, so this is already a case we're talking about. That I admitted to you $5,000. There's Reuben Shimon standing here. And then I did a Kinyan Hagbah. Kotvin, you can write it. Because once I did a Kinyan, that shows serious. Everybody knows that I'm allowing you to write it. Imlav. I didn't do the Kinyan. I just said in front of Reuben Shimon, I owe Solomon $5,000. So then, what's it called? So then you can't write it down because I didn't do the Kinyan. Okay? So far, so good. Next, b'mekarke, b'loy konimiyon. What about by karko? Comes to land. Do I have to make a kinyan by land in order for you to be able to write it down or not? What's the law? We don't write until he makes a kinyan. Mar Zutra says he didn't do a kinyan by property kotvinin, we write it. Property is different. Look at note 24. Real property automatically reverts back to its true owner as soon as the occupant admits that it belongs to another person. Accordingly, a note of admission merely serves a record of what's already been transpired. So the note is of note. The note is not significant. The fact that I said in front of two people that this land belongs to, let's say I say to this, I owe money. So let's say I say, yes, this is the case. I say, Solomon, this land actually belongs to you. Reuben and Shimon, be my witnesses, that it belongs to you. Once I say that, it already goes to you. It's already yours. I don't have to give you anything. I don't pick up land and give it to you. Land is yours. It transfers automatically. That's the way it transfers. It transfers as soon as I admit that it belongs to you. So therefore, writing it down, you're just writing down what happened because it's already done. When it comes to money, it's different. Money is different. Why? Because I can say I owe you $5,000. Which $5,000? Where are you taking those $5,000? I have to give you $5,000. It can come from anywhere. It can come from my assets. It can come from my bank. It can come from my mortgage. It's different. When it comes to karka, it is automatically. It is automatically becomes yours. Therefore, you can write it. The hilchata kutvi. Therefore, the law is like Mar Zutra that says when it comes to karka, once a person admits that this land belongs to whoever, it automatically becomes his. So therefore, you can write it down because you're not doing any more. Anything that already is, it's already done. Now, the question now is, what happens if you have money that's like karka? What does that mean? Let's see. Ravina ikol ledamaharia. Amal Rav Dimi bar Rav Huna made the maharia leravin. Metaltele v'itnu be'enahu. My. What happens if I have the $5,000 in an envelope with me right now? Okay, so here I am. Imagine this tissue is my envelope. I have the $5,000 right here in my hand. And I say to Solomon in front of Reuben and Shimon, and I say, I owe you $5,000. You're my witnesses. I owe him Solomon $5,000. So now, I have $5,000 in my hand right here. Do we say it's like karka and automatically becomes yours? Or do we say, since it's still money, yes, I owe you $5,000, but it doesn't have to be this $5,000. Which one is it? Because if it's like karka, then you can write it down. It automatically became his. But if it's not like karka, it's still like money. I can give it to you from any money that I have, not necessarily from this envelope. Then you can't write it down. So my Omar Le, Kamikarke Domu. Ravina said to Rav Dimi, it's like land. It's right here. It's right now. The witnesses can draw up a note of admission because it's right here. This is with us. Therefore, if it's going to him, it's belonging to him. So write it down. Rashi says, no. Even the Goviana Loy, since movable objects lack collection, meaning Solomon cannot come and take this $5,000 from me right now. Because I can tell him, no, this belongs to somebody else. This is not my money. Whatever. You make up whatever reason why it can't go to him. So now this is not the money that's going to him. It's different money. Therefore, it's not like land. Land, if I say this piece of land belongs to Solomon, this piece of land belongs to him. I'm not talking about another piece of land. I'm talking about this land right here. But when it comes to money, it can be any money. And the fact that I have $5,000 in my hand doesn't mean it's his. Whatever. I'm carrying someone's money. I'm a carrier, a courier, whatever they call them. It's not mine. I'm working for the bank. Who knows? So therefore, it's lacks collection. Even though it's in my hand, he has no right to go and take it. Therefore, it's not considered like karka. Therefore, if I admit, I have my money in my hand and I still admit, it cannot be written down because it's not the same as karka. Okay. What happens? We now are moving on to another case. We're dealing with notes of admission, and the case is as follows. Okay. So in order for a note of admission to be written, usually the way it's written is if I say to Reuben and Shimon, you're my witnesses, please write down that I owe him the money. Now, if I did the kinyan, also works that way, right? I don't have to say you could write it down. Once I did a kinyan, they could also write it down. We're talking about a case where I tell them, Reuven and Shimon, I owe Solomon $5,000. You're the witnesses. Please write it down. Once I say that, they can write it down. Now, what happens now? You take the document, and the document it's missing. It doesn't say Amr Lani Kitmu B'Chitmu B'Havule. And nowhere written in it is to say he told us to write it, sign it, and give it to Solomon. And nowhere does it say on the document. It's supposed to say that I told them, right, that the kinyan happened, whatever. It has to be explicit that this was a legit document. And nowhere does it say it's a legit document. It just says, I owe him $5,000. It doesn't say that I told the witnesses to write it up, sign it up, and give it to him. So can we trust that document or not? Now, obviously, this document is somewhat notarized in the sense that it goes through a beit din and they stamp it, whatever, to make it legit, because anyone can write up anything. So it goes through a beit din process. Somewhere, somehow, the witnesses have to go to beit din and log in, and they stamp it, whatever it is. I'm not sure of the exact process, but it does go through beit din. So now the question is, when beit din processes these documents, do they ascertain that it was done legally, or do we have to be scared that perhaps if the document is missing some verbiage, some correct wording, we have to be under the impression that the whole thing is pasul? So do we assume that if we went through beit din, they checked it out and the document's okay, or are we concerned since the document is missing some important wording, the whole document is possible? That's really the crux of the question. Okay, so Abai Rava, the Amrei Tarvayu, how did the Reish Lakish? Just what the doctor said. What did Reish Lakish say? Chazaka, en aidim hotmin al ashtar, en imken asegado. They don't sign unless he became a gadol. What's this whole case? If you look at note 29, a heir, someone who inherits, is not allowed to sell property from his father's estate until he's 20 years of age. That's the halakha. So if someone inherits his father when he was 18, he's not allowed to sell his father's property until he turns 20. Reish Lakish ruled that if a family member says that the sale was no good because he was 19 at the time he sold it, say, we don't believe the other family members. Because we say, if there's a legal document attesting to the sale, the edim would not have signed unless it made sure that the boy was already 20 years old. Since it goes through a beit din process with edim and all these stuff, we're going to safely assume that it was done correctly. That's what Reish Lakish said. So we're going to take this Reish Lakish over there that says we have to believe the child was already 20 when he did the sale. We don't believe the family member that says, oh, he was 17 when he sold it. We don't believe that. We believe that it was done legitimately. The same thing here. If it's missing a few words, we'll have to assume that since it was signed correctly, it was done right. So Maskilura, Puppy, Meitem Rav Ulbreda of Yeshua, Ika Midi the Anan Lo Yadinon, it's afraid of Edina. They say, hold on a second. We rabbis are arguing, is it okay? Is it not okay? We don't know. And you're telling me the clerks of the court who process the witnesses when they sign a note of admissions, they know, and we don't know, that they know, oh, it has to be done at he's above 20, has to be that it was done with permission, or either done with the kinyan. They all know this. Also, the clerks of the court were the ones who mostly worked as the witnesses also. Right? That's what it says. How can we presume the court scribes who act as witnesses and write these notes are familiar with this law? They're the ones who are dealing with these laws. So now, right, they're like the ones notarizing, they're signing it, witnessing it. It was done in a legit place. So now, are we to assume that they know it and we don't? Rabbis are arguing about it. They said, let's do an investigation. They sent to Abaya's court. They asked the scribes there, the clerks, what's the halacha? Can you just write up a note of admission? Or how does the process? And they said, no, note of admission. Either he has to agree to it or he has to make a kinyan. So then they answered correctly. And they sent it to the clerks of Rabba's Beit Din, and they also noted. So they see that the clerks of the Beit Din, who act as witnesses, who process all these documents, they know the halacha. Therefore, if the document is missing some verbiage, but it was signed by the clerks in the court, we're going to assume that it is a kosher document and it was done legally because it went through the process of people who knew what to do. This is what Rick Lakish was saying. Okay. So far, so good? Fine. Hayi Odita, the Harvard Kotevbet. There was a note of admission having two signatures. Duchan Pidkeme. And it said it as follows. This is the record of words. When it says record of words, this is a record documents drawn up by a court. You look at Rashi or look at note 30. When it says over here, this is a record of words. This is a court document. Okay? So we're now dealing with a court document. So they went to court and the whole thing was happening in court. And they're writing it as follows. And it has all the terminology of the Beit Din. Okay, and now the bottom of it is only two signatures. Usually court documents that are done in Beit Din have the signatures of all three judges. And here we have a court document that only has two judges and no explanation clause of why the third judge is not signing on it. It doesn't say he died or unable to sign. He was there, but it's written up later. There's nothing. So now we have to assume that maybe there was no a real Beit Din. Only two people signed. Only two judges signed. Where's the third guy? Perhaps the whole thing was possible. Savar Ravina Lememar, Hainu Reish Lakish. No, Ravina says maybe it's like Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish said if it's done in the courts, we assume that it was done correctly. Maybe we should say that. Omer Lirav Natan Bar Ami. Hacha Aminu Mishmei Rava. Kol ki Haygavna Hashina Levet Din To'in. We must be concerned that perhaps they had a court of only two, and they thought that they were a court. Maybe the Beit Din made a mistake. They took two judges and they thought that was a Beit Din. Maybe therefore you can't assume it was right. Amar of Nachum Bar Yitzchak, he katav ba Beit Din tu lo tarich. There's no. If they wrote, it depends how they wrote it. If they wrote, we the court, then I don't care how many signatures on it. Once it says we the court, then we know it was at least three there. Why the third guy didn't sign, we don't know. But once it says we the court, we assume it was three. And this one, it never said we the court. It said this is a record. And then it was only signed by two. We have no idea what was really happening there. Was it really three? Was it two? We don't know. Therefore, it's not good. The Gemara says with Dilma Beit Din Chatzufu. Perhaps it was a Beit Din Chatzuf. It's a chutzpah Beit Din. Damar Shmuel, Shnaim Shadanu, Dinei Din, El Sheniku Beit Din Chatzuf. Shmuel said, halachically, we don't paskin this way, but Shmuel held the halacha that if two judges sat on a case, their judgment is a judgment, but they're considered a chutzpah Beit Din. Perhaps that's what happened. How can we assume that if it says we the court, that it was done with three? It depends what type of Beit Din. The example that the Gemara gives, it says Rav Ashi's court. Gemara says, well, Rav Ashi, maybe the people in Rav Ashi's court hold like Shmuel. No, it says that Rav Ashi himself told us to write this note. Once we know that there was a rabbi on the court who would not agree to two judges, then if it says Beit Din, we the court, then we can assume there were three. So it depends. So if we have an Orthodox court, for our example, if we have an Orthodox court, and we know we follow halacha, then if they're writing Beit Din today, the halacha is we don't what's it called, do two as a Beit Din. It has to be three. We can safely assume that if it says we the court, it is three. Back then, where there was a machlok with Shmuel or not, we would have to know that the rabbi on the court would have been one of the opinion that it had to be three, not someone who held like like Shmuel. So at the end of the day, when it comes to a record, you have to be a little bit more careful how it's written. Now, next case. So someone says to a boy, I saw your father hiding money in a carriage trunk or closet. So his father died, and this guy comes and says, your father was hiding money. But Omer shall play him. And he said to me that they belong to someone else. Or they said to me, Shel Maaser Shenihen. It belongs to Maaser Sheni. So basically, this is the case. Reuben dies, he leaves his son Shimon, and Levi comes, who's a stranger from outside, comes to Shimon and says, your father Reuben, I saw him hiding money in a closet, and he said it belongs to Yehuda. Or he said it belongs to Maaser Sheni. Now, Gemara says, Babayit, if the hiding place is in the house, then this guy who comes and says that your father said the money is someone else's, we don't believe him. Okay, either he's saying the not truth, or the father told him that he was just giving him a lie, he didn't want him to know what the money was for. But if it was in the field, the father hid the money in the field, then we do believe it. And either belongs to someone else or belongs to Maaser Sheni. The general rule is called should be adoli plan. Anything which is in the witness's ability to take from its hiding place, devar kayamin. And be adoli plan, so the Gemara gives a rule. If that witness can go and take that money, and he's telling you that money belongs to someone else, then we'll believe it, because he couldn't take it himself. The fact that he's not taking it and he's saying that your father said it belongs to whatever, we would trust him on that. But if it's in the house, and he comes up and says, "Oh, your father left the money in the shoebox under the shoe rack," and he says it belongs to the other guy, then we're not going to believe it, because he has no right to walk into your house and take it. So now we're not going to believe him that actually that's the case. Another case. Someone himself, Shimon himself, saw his father hiding the money. And he says to his father, what are you doing? Why are you hiding the money? He said, oh, this money actually belongs to Yehuda, or Shalmai Sheni, or their Maaser Sheni. Now the father dies. And the son goes to the shoe closet and he sees $1 million there. So do we believe the father that it belongs to Yehuda or belongs to Maaser Sheni? Or do we say the father just didn't want them to take the money when he was alive, but he was actually lying? Whatever. Which way is it? So the Gemara says, if when he said it in a way of instruction, telling them, oh yes, please make sure that it goes to Yehuda or whatever like that. He said it in a way that we can believe that it actually meant then we have to listen to him. But if your father told you in a way that he was deceiving you, he's like, oh, don't look. Oh, it's not mine. Yeah, it doesn't belong here. Some way that you can listen to it and understand that he's trying to hide it from you. Like, then he didn't say anything. Okay, so it really depends on how you heard your father say it, how the person heard his father say it. If he said it in a way that seemed to be an instruction, then you have to listen to him after he's dead. You have to understand that it was instruction. But if you can think for some reason that he was joking with you, he just didn't want you to know, he didn't want you to take it, then he didn't say anything, and you're allowed to inherit that money. Here comes another case. Someone had, his father left him money, but he didn't know where the money was. He knew his father had like $6 million, and that's the case. All right, let's just make up a case. 10 million, make it an easy number. Guy knew his father had $10 million in cash. Father died, can't find the cash. He's looking, can't find it. Now he goes to sleep one night. The master of dreams comes to him. Angels come to him and tell him, kach v'kach hein. This is the way it is. The Malkum Pliny Hay. It's exactly in this spot, wherever you think it is. So they tell him, your father has $10 million. It's in this spot. Then they tell him, Shel Maaser Sheni Hay. But you should know that $10 million belongs to Maaser Sheni. It's not yours, not your father's. It belongs to the Beit HaMikdash. So you'll be using Yerushalayim. This was an actual story. So the guy, father died, left him $10 million, doesn't know where it is, gets a dream, finds out that his father left him $10 million in such and such a place. The Malach tells him, it's not yours to use. Ma'aser Sheni. What's the halacha? So Amru, they said, Devrei halamot, lo ma'alin, v'lo meredin. We don't believe the dream. Even though he goes and he finds it in that place. He finds it in the shoebox or wherever it was. Like the dream told him, we're not going to believe the dream for the status of the money. And we're going to say that he can use that money. Now, exactly why, we're sure the Mefarshim go through different reasons. I'm not going to be able to go through all of them today because we have a lot more to catch up. We're trying to do 2 shiurim in 1. Let's see what time is it now. Okay, we're doing pretty good on time. So just Bekitzer, there's always, the way they explain it, there's always some nonsense in a dream. So therefore, if the other 2 parts are true, the amount of money and the place, then the nonsense must be that it was Ma'aser Sheni. That's one shot. Second shot is, Rishali from others, the way they explain it is that a person's dreams, it really depends on how he sleeps and how he eats. If he eats well, sleeps well, then you can believe his dream. If he doesn't sleep well, he doesn't eat well, then his dreams are not solid dreams. So therefore, it's always a suffix. Is my dream correct? Is it not correct? And then you go based on suffix, you pass in the shiloh. So if you saw a dream, then it depends. If it's suffix the Isser, suffix the Araisa, suffix the Rabbanon, you do this the way the suffix comes out. The way it comes out here, this money would become mutter. The Ben Ish Chai is Ben Yoda. I think this is the real good shot. He says really, he brings from Midrashim. So when you see a dream, whatever you see in the dream, not poshut, not simple, but what you see is what the dream is trying to tell you. But a whole case, one of Rabbi Akiva's students, he was dreaming all these different dreams that his children were dying, or this was happening, that was happening. And then Rabbi Akiva told him, you're not reading it right. The dream really means good stuff. And he explained to him everything in a good way. The Ben Ish Chai says the same thing is here. Even though he found the money in that place, or he saw it in that place, when the dream told him it was Ma'aser Sheni, he says that's not what the dream meant, that it's Ma'aser Sheni. Rather, the dream was telling him, because your father was careful in the mitzvah of Ma'aser Sheni, that's why he was zeichet to his $10 million. Okay, that's how he got it. Because he was doing the mitzvah of Ma'aser Sheni well, that's how he was zeichet to so much money. And the Malach was telling him this in order for him to continue in his father's ways and continue to be careful with the mitzvah of Ma'aser Sheni. That's just agav to understand this part, because it's interesting. The place is right, the amount is right, and you don't believe in the status of the money. Any questions? Moving on. Okay. So,
is it only with monetary issue or any other dream?
Everything. According to Ben Ish Chai, anything that we see in a dream, we're not necessarily interpreting it right. That's the way Ben Ish Chai is learning.
So it looks like whatever was for our benefit, we used it. Whatever it wasn't, we just cancel it.
Yes and no. Yes and no. Either you know how to read it right, or according to the other shot, there's always some nonsense in there. So the stuff that makes sense is it, and whatever is nonsense, whatever is we don't know about, we can't ascertain it, so we'll have to assume that that's the nonsense part. Because I'm not a master of dreams, but this is the more fine.
Okay, thank you.
That was the shiur before Sukkot. This is now starting yesterday. I didn't give any shiurim over Sukkot on Gemara. I gave shiurim on other stuff. So this is yesterday's shiur. Now we're starting yesterday's shiur. Or actually, no, it's not actually. This is actually still part of that one. Okay, Shnai Marmum, my mistake. Shnai Marmum Zakai. How do they write their verdict? How do they write it on the star? They want to write on the record. How do they write it? Do they write Zakai? They just write he's okay, he's clean. Rish Lakish Aimer, no. That's what Yochanan said. Yochanan said you just write Zakai. Just write the final verb. Rish Lakish says plenty mezakin, plenty mechayivim. No, they say so and so, Judge A, Judge B said that he is clear, and Judge C said he's chayav. You write down what every judge said. But the other says no, you don't write that way. Rather, midivrehen nizdaka ploini. Rather, you say to the words of the judges, he was found not liable. What is going on? My man, what's the machlekes? Ikmanayu The issue is in a case where the majority ruled incorrectly, and the dissenting judge. So let's say as follows. So we have three judges, Reuben, Shimon, and Levi. It's a case between me and Solomon. Okay, so Solomon said I owed him $10,000. We went to court, and the judges Reuben and Shimon said, Solomon, you're right. Moshe owes you $10,000. And Levi didn't agree to them. Now, later, I bring proof and witnesses to show that the judges were wrong. I don't owe him any money. Now the halacha is, if it wasn't paid judges, if it wasn't said bent-in judges, but rather judges that we collected, and they never said you have to accept us, and even if we make a mistake, they didn't say that. But rather, we're talking about judges that if they make a mistake, they have to pay. The question now is, does only Reuben and Shimon have to pay me back for making me lose that money to him because I really don't owe it to him? Or does Levi also have to pay with them? But Levi never said I was guilty. So, according to the one who says you just write down the final verdict, then Levi has to also pay because we don't know what anyone said. So therefore, all three have to pay. According to the one who says you write down who said what, then Levi would say, here, look at the record. I never said you were guilty. They have to pay. I don't have to pay. Now the Gemara says, hold on a second. According to Rabbi Yochanan, who says you just write down the final verdict, why does he have to pay? Levi can say to Reuben and Shimon, if you would have listened to me, I would have made him not guilty. None of us would have to be paying right now. Why do I have to pay your mistake? Rather, the question is as follows. The truth is Levi never has to pay. Because Levi said, no, he's not guilty. And today, do we say that Reuben and Shimon pay the third person's portion? Meaning, the three people were involved in the verdict. So let's say it's $10,000, right? So each one should pay $3,333.33, right? This is dividing it in three. So do they say, I'm only going to pay each our portion of $3,333, or do we say, no, you have to pay 5 and 5. You have to make up the missing amounts because that's how much you made me pay. According to when it says Zakai, you just write down the final verdict. Yeah, you're going to have to make them pay half and half. They're going to have to take the third person's portion. The person who said you write down who said what, then you don't make them pay the third person's portion. Rather, they only pay their portion of 3,333. Gemara says, according to the one who says, Zokai, just write down the final verdict, and you said you have to pay, they have to pay the 5,000 each. But let them tell the third guy, Ilav at Bahadan, if it wasn't for you, we never would have been abetted, and our psak never would have held. The only reason why he was guilty because we three sat together. See, even though you said he was not guilty, the fact that the guilty verdict came because you were sitting with us. If you were never sitting with us, we never would have been abetted. None of this nonsense would have happened. So pay it up. So which way does it go? Rather, the reason is as follows. And the Ikibanayu, rather, the dispute is not about paying back. We already said that when the Beit Din says the verdict, they don't say who said what. They rather say that Gadol Shebanaim, the biggest judge, says what the halacha is, what the din is. Pay, not pay, whatever it is, he says it, because we don't want everyone to know who said what. For the safety of the judges, you're not allowed to be saying Lashon Hara, saying Rechilas. So Yochanan says, therefore, just write the final verdict on the record, because you don't want to say who said what. You're not allowed to do rechilut. You're not allowed to speak lashon hara. You're not allowed to gossip. He says, 1 second. You cannot write the final verdict as one word. Zakai, chayev, Because it seems to mean that everyone agreed. It was a unanimous decision, but it wasn't. People argued. How can you write a unanimous decision if there was an argument? Therefore, write what everyone said. Eliezer says, no, you're right and you're right. Can't write who said what because it's going to be dangerous. You can't you can't write final verdict just one thing because then it seems to be a unanimous decision, which is not true. Therefore, he writes, he rather write this way. The divrehem is the kaploni. From their words, from their discussion, this person was found not liable or found liable. Basically, you write and you use the wordage, the verbiage of the wording. That means from their discussions and different opinions, they came to this final conclusion. This way, it does not sound as a unanimous decision. It doesn't just say guilty or non-guilty, but rather it says from their deliberations. That's the way halacha l'maisa is. Okay,
But
now,
questions?
yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Even if you say from their deliberation, it still could be unanimous. Inferred it could be a unanimous decision.
True, but we're not saying it's unanimous decision. We're saying that they spoke about it, that there was of different opinions.
So at the end of the day, we still will never know how they voted, basically.
Right, who said what? That's the whole point. So
And
we're
the
not
rest,
lying to say that there was a unanimous decision. We're saying that there was discussion, and this is the conclusion they came out to. So that can mean that there was different opinions, but this is what they came out to in the end. Correct.
and the rationale behind it is because we don't want them to be liable in the future if they made the wrong decision.
No, we don't want people to know who said what for their safety, and because you're not allowed to be gossipers. Regarding paying back if they made a wrong decision, today's judges don't really pay back. Because usually most judges are who work on the court are not being paid for being judges, rather than being paid for their services in the building or whatever it is. And most judges would also say, "I'm not going to judge your case unless you accept my judgment, even if I made a mistake." This way, they get out of having to pay back. Okay, fine. Now we're starting a new Gemara. This is actually like yesterday's share. So let's start from here. Gomer is a dover. The Mishnah said that the Mishnah that we're going back to, Mishnah said you bring in the witnesses, and they ask the witnesses questions, and then afterwards you bring the witnesses back in. That's what we think the Mishnah is saying. The Gemara says, when it says the judges finish deliberations, you bring them back in. Laman, who are you bringing in? If you're saying bring in the litigants, they're there. Because the Mishnah never said take out the litigants. The Mishnah said you take each witness separately, and you ask them questions, and you send them out. So when it says to bring in, it seems to be bringing back Adam, Adam. Rather, you're bringing back the witnesses. Now, why are you bringing back the witnesses? I already questioned them. Why are you bringing them? What do I need them for? They're not the people involved in the case. They're just witnesses. Why I'm bringing them back? Come on. Whose opinion is this in the Mishnah? You have to bring back the witnesses. The like Rabbi Natan. It's not like Rabbi Natan. The time if it was taught in the Braita, Lo Olam, Ein Edutim Mistarefet, Ad Shiru Shneim Ke'echad. Rabbi Shua ben Korha Omer, Bil Mazeh Harizeh. Okay, let's take this one step at a time. The Mishnah, the Gemara says, the fact that you're saying Adam have to come back, it's not like Rabbi Natan. We're going to see Rabbi Natan says, one witness can come today, second witness can come tomorrow, and they never have to see each other. They, just as long as they give testimony the same, they can come on separate days and we believe him and that's it. So our Mishnah cannot go like Rabbi Natan. He sees here, the Mishnah says you have to bring back the Adam at the end. Why? In order for them to say Edut together, we're going to see. That cannot be the Rabbi Natan. Now the problem with that is, the halacha is like Rabbi Natan. Rabbi Natan says that halacha, that's the halacha, that you don't need witnesses together. Witnesses can come one today, and one come tomorrow. One come today, one come next week. Whatever it is, come today in the morning, one come in the afternoon. They don't have to be there together. So now it's going to bring a Braita. This Braita has two machlokets. We're going to have to deal with both of them. So pay attention. Okay, the Tanya and the Braita. Lo'olam, ein edutim mistarefet. Their testimony does not combine until they both see the same thing. So first thing, when witnesses see the case, when they see it happening, according to the Tana Kama, according to the first opinion, the first Tana, they have to see the same thing happening at the same time. Even if they saw it one after the other. So here's an example. This is an example we're going to use. So I tell Solomon, I tell him, I owe you $10,000. Okay. So according to the Tana Kama, remember, this is not this. I'm not saying this case works, but just to understand what we're talking about. According to the Tana Kama, I need Reuben and Shimon here together, and I need to tell Reuben and Shimon, you're both going to be my witnesses. I owe him $10,000. Okay. According to Tana Kama, that works. What's your Shua ben Korfa's opinion? Korfa's opinion is different. I tell Solomon on Monday, Reuben standing here, and I tell Reuben, I owe him $10,000. Then on Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever day, I see Shimon. I say, Shimon, I owe him $10,000. So now, what happened? They both heard that I owe him $10,000, but they heard it on two separate days. According to the Tana Kama, this testimony doesn't work because you didn't see the exact same thing. According to Shua ben Korcha, this would work. Why? Because you both heard the same final thing in the end. Okay? That's the machlok. We'll deal with that all inside, but that's the machlok. Do I have to see the same thing at the same time as the other witnesses, or I can see the same thing on a different day and combine the testimony? That's machlokis number one. Then machlokis number two. Testimony is not accepted in Beit Din until two of them testify together. Two of them have to come and say it together. Rabbi Natan Omer, שומעים דבריו של זה היום, כשיבוא חברו מחר, שומעים את דבריו. Second machlokes, I already told you, Tana Kama and Rabbi Natan. Tana Kama says they both have to come together at the same time and gather. And that's why our Mishnah says they have to return. And Rabbi Natan says no, they can come one today, one tomorrow. That's enough. They combine. Shomini Divarav, we listen to them. Now our Gemara is going to come and say, like, our Mishnah is not like the Tana Kama. And it's not the witnesses we bring back in, because the halacha is like Rabbi Natan. When it says you bring them back in, is levale dinin. It means the litigants, the people who have the court case. And Rabbi Nechemiah, it's like Rabbi Nechemiah. The Tanya Rabbi Nechemiah Omer. Rabbi Nechemiah said, this is the way, the practice of the pure-minded judges of Jerusalem. What do? They bring in the litigants and listen to what they're saying. That they bring in the witnesses one at a time and listen to them. And then they take everybody and they send them outside. And then they go through the case and deliberate it. And then when they're done, they bring the litigants back in and not the witnesses. So therefore, our Mishnah goes like Rabbi Natan. The Gemara says, well, 1 second, we do have a different brayta that says you bring back the witnesses. Like Tana Kama, like Rabbi Natan. Gemara says, he go to Rabbi Natan. That brayta goes like not like Rabbi Natan. However, our Mishnah does go like Rabbi Natan, and therefore we bring the litigants back in. And that makes sense because we said we don't want the litigants to know who said what. If they're in the same room, they're going to hear. Okay, the Ran says maybe they were hiding in the corner, and that's why they didn't hear. But no, we practice like the Nakish of Yerushalayim, like the clean, pure-minded judges in Jerusalem, that we send the litigants out during the deliberations, and we bring them back in when the judges are ready to rule. Okay, now we're going to go back to focus on that brayta, the two machloket. First machloket was, do I have to see it at the same time or not? Tana Kama and Yeshua ben Korcha. Gufa, La'olam, and Edutim Mitzarefet, testimony is not combined until they see it together. That's the Tanakh. Yeshua ben Korhai says, no, even if they do it one after the other, they see it one after the other. The Maikim of Ligi, what are they arguing in? That's the question. What are they arguing in? We could say they're either arguing in a pasuk, or we can say they're arguing in logic. Is it a logical argument or is it a verse argument, the pasuk argument? So we're going to start with the logic. According to the Tanakhama, if you don't see it together, then when he says you owe you $10,000 on Monday, and then he says again, I owe you $10,000 on Wednesday, maybe he's talking about two separate $10,000. Who said it's the same thing? So therefore, he can't combine. Idach and Yeshua ben Korcha, he says, in the end of the day, don't look at when what was said. Don't look at when what was said, but rather look at what was said. What was said, you owe him 10,000. He's saying owe him 10,000. He's saying owe him 10,000. Combine it. At the end of the day, the fact is $10,000 he owes him. So you can believe. If you want to say it's a pasuk, how do we know it's a pasuk? Because the chtiv, it says, but who ate? He is a witness. Ora'a or yada. And he knows or he saw. Okay? And then the pasuk continues saying that he has to say testimony. If he doesn't, he gets it. It says, oh, the who ate. Now, what is the word ed, witness? When it says in the Torah, the word ed, what does it mean? It sounds like one witness, but it's not. Ed always means two witnesses. How do we know this? Matanya. From what it says, lo yakum ed. Now look at the Torah or Shalom on the Hebrew side, the right margin. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth line over there, you see, not the fifth line, the fifth different type of thing. You'll see there's the Saris Hashas, the Goyis Abach, Gilin Hashas, the Goyis Mahari, and then comes Torah or Hashalom. It brings the whole pasuk. You have to look at sometimes the Gemara brings half the pasuk, and the main part of the pasuk that you need is not in the quote. You have to look at the whole pasuk. The pasuk says, "Lo yakum ed echad." One witness cannot stand up. One witness cannot give testimony for any reason. Either 2 or 3. You need to have 2 or 3. So the Gemara now says, Missed the word echad. The fact that it says you can't stand one witness. Why it says lo yakum ed echad? One witness can't stand up. The word ed means one. So why it says one witness? Ed echad. Don't say the word echad. Ed already means one. Edim means more than one. Why does it say ed echad? Zibana av. This is one of the principles of learning Torah. Binyan av. What does it mean? Kol makom shneimar ed. Anywhere it says ed, arei kan shenayim. It really means two. Ad shi paret lecha katu echad. So the Torah comes and says the word echad, then you know it means one. Even though it means witness and it's singular, it actually means two until it says the word echad, then I know it means one. Right? That's halakha everywhere you read through the Torah. If it says the word ed, it means edim, two. Unless it says ed echad. The Torah teaches over here, ed echad must be one witness. Now, going back to our pasuk. Our pasuk said you have 2 witnesses, but who ed? Ora'a or yadam. So it says here, the who ed, which is edim, ora'a, he saw or he knows. Two of them, or ed, ora'a or yadam. 2 of them know, 2 of them see. That's what it says in the pasuk. 2 of them see means 2 of them have to see it. Therefore, they have to see it together. That's not a count. The idach, and the other one says, no. It already says who ate. He is witnesses, right? You want to say that? True, very nice. How do you become witnesses? By seeing or knowing. So why does the Torah say or yada, or he saw or he know? How else do you become a witness? You don't become a witness by sitting in the bathroom and saying, "Oh, I know what happened." You have to know what happened. So the fact that he's saying he's a witness, why is the pasuk going to say ora or yada? It's saying ora or yada. Whenever he saw, however he knows, he can combine his witness testimony. Therefore, you can combine it. Therefore, he saw on 2 separate days, you can combine it. That's the way the machloket from the pasuk, Yeshua ben Karcha, would learn. Now, moving on to the second machloket. According to the Tanakama, both of them have to come to the bedin together and say the testimony together. Rabbi Natan Omer, Shomein devarav shel zeh hayom, shevo havero mahar, shomein devarav. He listened to this one today. When his friend comes tomorrow, he listens to him. And what are they arguing? You want to say they're arguing in logic, or you want to say they're arguing in a pasuk. If you want to say they're arguing in logic, mar sover. One hold. What's the logic? The Tanakh said, if one witness comes separately, what's his power? The most that he can do is cause the other person to swear. That's it. So when you have one person come, he can cause a person to swear. You have another person come later, all he can do is cause a person to swear. All one witness can do is make a person to swear. You need to have 2 witnesses together in order to tell him he has to give the money. So therefore, you need 2 witnesses to speak at the same time. Be'idach, Rabbi Natan, what's his logic? He says as follows. He says, are the 2 people speaking from one mouth? No. They're each speaking separately, and then you put their words together and you believe them. So if they're speaking separately anyway, so just hear them on separate days already. You don't have to hear them together. They're not using one mouth. They're using separate mouths. And then you're combining thetheir words. So combine it on 2 separate days. And therefore, you can listen on 2 separate days. That's the logical argument. You want to say that it is a pasuk argument. What's the pasuk? It's the continuation of our first pasuk. That it said, "Who ate ora or yada." Then it continues, "Im lo yagid if he doesn't say, he carries a sin." Now it says, "Im lo yagid," the Kuli Alma and all of them, the Tanakama, the Rabbi Natan, they hold like when it says ed, it means edim. Therefore, it says here, if edim saw or know, they have to say. Now what? What do you do? They're dealing with, do you makish it? Do you compare it? It says in the pasuk, it's in the Torah or Shalom, it's the second verse they bring. So the last 2 lines. So it means edim. He saw or he knows. If he doesn't say, when he doesn't say, what does it mean he doesn't say? Who's saying? 1 person or 2? So Masava Makshinan Hagadal. We're comparing the saying to the seeing. Just as it says ed, which means edim, and it means to see, to say. Comparing the Ri'ah to the Agadah. Masava, but even Natan says no. The pasuk talks about 2 people seeing. Pasuk doesn't talk about 2 people talking. There, you don't compare it. You don't make the hekesh. You don't make a comparison there. And therefore, you don't need them to say it together. That's the machloket via the pasuk of how they would learn this. Okay, so halacha l'ma said we do know the halacha is like Rabbi Natan. That's the halacha that one can come today, one can come tomorrow, and they can say, and we combine their words. Now, our question is the halacha like Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha or not? Do two people have to see the same testimony, the same thing at the same time? Or can they see it at two separate days and combine their testimony? How is it? What's the halakha? This wasn't just our question. This is already a question from the Gemara. Listen to the story. Rabbi Shimon ben Eliakim, Hava mishtaken alei Rabbi Yosef ben Chanina lemismecheh. Rabbi Shimon ben Eliakim wanted to get his student, Rabbi Yossi, the son of Chanina, to get him smicha. Now, even though Rabbi Shimon ben Eliakim had smicha, he cannot give smicha to his student because his Rebbe is still alive. He has to get it from his Rebbe to give to his student. V'lo kam mistayat milta, but the effort was not successful. Rabbi Yohanan was not giving Rabbi Yossi bar Hanina smicha. He was trying and trying. Shimon was trying to get it for him. So one day, Yom Hada Hava Yativ Kamed Rabbi Yohanan. One day they were sitting in front of Rabbi Yohanan. Omerlu, Rabbi Yochanan said to his students, Mi ikad yada. Does anybody know? Halachat ki Yeshua ben Korcha or lo? Is the halakha like Yeshua ben Korcha or not? Who knows? So Omerlu Shimon ben Eliakim. Then yada. Shimon ben Eliakim said, oh, my student, Rabbi Yossi bar Hanina, he knows. Omerlu Yochanan said, Shkoyach, he knows. Tell me, what does he know? Say it. Tell me. Amar Shimon Yaakov said to him, whoa, before he says it, give him smicha. Now, he's not trying to put him in a corner. The Parshim explained that when a rabbi who has smicha says a halacha, it's much more stronger than if a student without smicha says the halacha. Therefore, if you want the halacha to be established, you got to give him smicha first. Now, first of all, to understand, we say many times, smicha that time, this is actually talking about Moshe Rabbeinu, passed on all those years. This is still the legit smicha. Today, smicha is different. It's just like a license that the rabbi knows what he's talking about, or whatever he has the license for. It's like a diploma, so it doesn't have the same status. Don't get confused when we're saying smicha. This is a smicha that's the legit smicha from Moshe Rabbeinu. So now that's why he wants his power to be strong. He wants him to have smicha. So what does Rabbi Yochanan do? This is Chavereisha. He gave his smicha. He gave Rabbi Yochanan his smicha. Amalei, Beni Eroli Ketza Shemai. So now he says, son, tell me what you know. What's the halacha? Is it Yeshua ben Korcha or not? I gave you smicha. Tell it to me now. Amalei, Kach Shemati. He said to him as follows. This is what I heard. Shemodeh Yeshua ben Korcha, the Rabbi Natan. The Yeshua ben Korcha agrees with Rabbi Natan. I think we lost Solomon there for a second. Okay, Solomon's back. So he said, Amalei. So Yosef ben Chanina said to him, Kach, this is how I heard. Shemodeh Yeshua ben Korcha, Rabbi Natan. The Yeshua ben Korcha agrees with Rabbi Natan. So Amar Yochanan said to him, what? This is the information? What are you telling me? You didn't tell me anything. Okay. You told me Yeshua ben Korcha agrees to Rabbi Natan. Hashta ma ikar haya b'hadeh hadadeh. Ar Yeshua ben Korcha lo be'inan. Haggadah mebiya. He says to him as follows. What's going on? Rabbi Natan said that they can say it separate days. Okay? This everyone agrees. This halacha. Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha says they can see it on separate days. If you can see it on separate days, then definitely you can say it on separate days. This I know already. My question is, do we hold it to Yeshua ben Korcha? Does Rabbi Natan hold it to Yeshua ben Korcha? Don't want to answer me like that. If Yeshua ben Korcha holds it to Rabbi Natan, that's for sure. Does Rabbi Natan hold it to Yeshua ben Korcha? Is the halacha that way? That you didn't tell me. So you can see the guy messed up. He just got smicha. He told him to say the halacha. He didn't say anything. He gave no opinion. He didn't say anything new. Amalei, Rabbi Yochanan then said to this boy, to this young man, this boy at this time, this older man probably, Rabbi Yossi says, don't worry. Ho'el va'alita lo tereh. Once we picked you up and gave you smicha, you can't go back down. Smicha stays with you. Amara b'zera, shimamina, you learn from here, Gavar Abba, from a great man, kivan istamich samich. Once he gets smicha, even though it was given on false pretense, he was. They thought he knew the halacha, but he didn't. Still, once he gets it, it stays with him. Okay. We're not done yet.
But was it an honest mistake by the teacher, or this was a trick to get him the smicha?
I don't know. That's a good question. I didn't dig into it. I think maybe he thought that he knew and then he didn't. I'm not sure. That is a good question. I'm not sure. It's a very good question. Okay, we have our next Gemara. We have our next Gemara. It's not too complicated. You just have to pay attention. So let's take a look. Amar Rav Chia bar Avin Amar Rav. Halacha k'Rishua ben Karcha. Halacha is like a Rishua ben Karcha. Ben bekarkaot, ben betaltalin. They can see two separate incidents, and we believe it. Whether it's regarding land or whether it's regarding money. So that means if I admit to Solomon, I owe you this piece of land on a Monday, Reuben heard it. And then on Wednesday, I went and I told Shimon, I owe this piece of land to Solomon. We believe it. They can combine their testimony. Same thing by money. Amarula says no. Halacha is like a Rishua ben Karka when it comes to land, not when it comes to money. Now, what would be the difference? Think about it for a second. Land, there's one land, right? If I say that this land belongs to Solomon, and then on the next day I say this land belongs to Solomon, we're talking about the same land. But if I say it by money, I owe Solomon $10,000. I said it on Monday. And then on Wednesday I say I owe $10,000 to Solomon. Maybe Solomon's a nice guy. He gave me another $10,000 on Tuesday, and now I'm saying it again. I owe him $10,000. Maybe I'm talking about two separate 10,000. That's the distinction between karka and money. So I'm going to apply. Vai said to Ula, Ula, you're saying the halacha is like him by land and not by money. When you say halacha meklal defligi, when you say the halacha is like him, it means that someone is arguing with him by land. The Chachamim agree to Rishua ben Karcha when it comes to land. That everyone agrees. There's no one arguing when it comes to land. Everyone agrees that testimony on two separate days that you heard is acceptable. Not just heard, saw on two separate days is acceptable. The Tanur of Idi bar Avin, the Ezekiel Devei Karno, Moy Chachamim Rishua ben Karcha, the Edut Bechor. They agreed to him by Edut Bechor. So firstborn animal is considered Kadosh. It goes to the Kohen, supposed to be bring up as a carbon. If you can't bring it up as a carbon, the Kohen has to keep it, like today is no Beis Hamikdash, Kohen has to keep it until it gets a mum, until it gets a blemish that will disqualify it from being a korban. So let's say on Monday, Reuven comes and says, not related to the Kohen, right? Reuven comes and says, I saw on that Bechor a blemish on its lips. And then on Tuesday, Shimon comes and says, I saw on that Bechor a blemish on its eyes. We accept it. According to Rishua ben Karcha, there's two witnesses who say they saw a blemish, even though they saw different blemishes. That's the halacha is going to be. Even if they saw the different move, we're going to combine their testimony and allow that animal now to be shechted and eaten by the Kohen. Uvedut karka, the same thing by karka. He admits that it belongs to him. Same thing. Uvedut chazaka, and same thing by chazaka. Someone says he's living there 3 years. So some guy heard that he's living there for 3 years from this day, and someone heard that he's living there for 3 years on that day. Since we have two testimonies, the final product is that the guy has a chazaka. We accept it, even though they know it from two different sources. The same thing is by ben and by bat. By knowing that a girl or a boy became the age of majority, they became adults. We're going to explain what that means in a second. Now, so what happens is you have Rishua ben Karcha. We have Ula who says that the Rabbanan are arguing with him, and we have Rabbi Adin who says that the Rabbanan agree with Rishua ben Karcha. So which one is it? The Gemara says it's actually two different opinions. Gavra, Gavra, Karami. Both of them are Amoras. Mar Savar Pligi. One Amora Ula holds that the Chachamim argue with Shuv and Karcha when it comes to property. Umar Savar Lo Pligi. And Rabba and Rav Adin Baravin, they say no, the Chachamim are not arguing. So there's two different opinions in what the Chachamim say, two different Amoras, and the Amoras are allowed to have different opinions in what it is. They have an opinion of what the halacha actually is according to the Rabbanan. That's their machloket, and that's fine. So it doesn't make any problems. Now, the question is, what is by ben ubabat? What does it mean? By b'chein shebabat, shebaben b'shebabat. Ilema echad omer achad begabav, ve'echad omer achad b'chdesa. So one guy comes and says, that girl, I saw her hair on her back, one hair on her back. The other one says, I saw her hair on her abdomen. Now, the truth is, la'alacha, we say, in order for them to be considered gadol, they have to have two pubic hairs. So who cares about their back or their abdomen? So either the way they explain it, that the Gemara is just saying it b'lashon naki in a nice language, it doesn't want to say pubic area, the makom erva, but rather just say in the back and the front, meaning different parts of the pubic area. Others say no, it means the finger. If their hair grows on the finger, then that means that they definitely have hair in the pubic area. We'll just learn simply it means the pubic area. So one of them says, I saw one hair on this side, on the left side, for example, and one said I saw it on the right side, one and one. That case is never acceptable. Why? Because you have to see two hairs. Even though you're saying you each saw one hair here and there, your edut that the person is giving is only half a testimony. Therefore, what's the case? Rather, it's like two people that come, and each one says, I saw two hairs on the left side, and the other guy said, I saw two hairs on the right side. Even though they're saying two different places that they saw it, the fact is that they saw two hairs on the erva, and therefore, even though the testimony is talking about two different places, they'll accept it as one testimony, and it'll be mistarefet. It'll be combined according to the Bishua ben Korha. That's how far it goes. Even if they say the details different, we're still going to combine it. Okay. Now, Amar Ibn Yosef, we're on 30B3. Ana mina bishmei de'ula. Halakha k'Yeshua ben Korcha. Ben b'karkot, ben b'taltalin. I learned from Ibn Yosef, the name of Ula, that the halacha is by karka and by metaltalin. Rabbanan da'atu mechuzah Amar b'zeiram bishmei derav. By land, yes, but not by money. And Rav l'tamed. Rav is according to his reasons. Amar Rav. Rav says in Yeshua ben Karcha, he gives a little distinction. He says, if it's hoida after hoida, then we believe. Or even if it's hoida after halava, we believe. What is it? Admission after admission. If on Monday I admit in front of Reuben, I say, Reuben, I owe Solomon 10,000. Then on Tuesday, I say the same thing. Yeah, you can believe it, it's the same amount of money. It's one case. Or if on Monday, Reuben saw Solomon give me the 10,000, and on Tuesday, I said to Shimon, he gave me 10,000, you can believe it's one case. But, halava acha halava, or halava acha hoda'a, lo mitzrafeh. But if I tell Reuben on Monday, Reuben, he gave me $10,000. And then on Tuesday, Shimon sees Solomon giving 10,000. So I admitted earlier that the fact that he gave me the money. So then you cannot combine it. This must be a different loan. If I tell you, I tell Ephraim, Solomon gave me $10,000. That's a Monday. Then on Tuesday, Ephraim sees him giving me $10,000. Can't be the same $10,000. Therefore, you can't combine the testimony. If Reuben saw it on one day, that I said it to him, and on Tuesday, he gave me the money. Also, halava, the first case that he brought down was halava, meaning Ephraim saw that that Solomon gave me $10,000 on Monday. And then Avram saw he gave me $10,000 on Tuesday. So you can't combine those two. Obviously, it's $20,000, not $10,000. He gave me Monday, then he gave me on Tuesday. Those cannot be combined. So Why you say a loan after a loan? Two witnesses saw two separate loans. Why you say they can't combine? Because what the first witness saw on Monday is not the same money that he saw on Tuesday. So he says, so the same thing should be with admission on Monday and admission on Tuesday. When I admit that he owes me on Monday, I admit he owes me on Tuesday. Why are you saying it's the same? When he admitted on Monday, he admitted about a different 10,000. And when he admitted on Tuesday, it's a different 10,000. Why is that any different than being two separate loans? So Rav Huna is not going to answer. Depends on the circumstance. He says to him, you know what the case is? When I admit on Tuesday to Shimon that I owe Solomon 10,000, I tell him, by the way, I admitted to Reuven on Monday. The same thing. Oh, so now they both know I'm talking about the same thing. The person says, no, I kati batreya done it. Shimon knows. Kamal Loyada, Reuven doesn't know. The Gemara says, I'm gonna let it come out. What does Reuven answer? He goes back to the first guy and he says to him, Hamane dorde le kamach, dorde le nami kame ploni. Yesterday, when I told you that I owe the $10,000 to Solomon, today I told that also to Shimon. So now they both know that it's the same $10,000. So now he says to him, wow, you calmed my mind down because I was thinking the guy admits every day it's a different loan. And now you explained to me that he tells him what I admit to you was that, when I admit to you was that. Now I can understand how it combines. Amalei. So then he says to him that your mind, because may your mind be at ease, for you have placed my mind at ease. Amalei. So now he said, who says my nechuta? He says, how did I calm you down? Nothing I did to you. Whatever I said, all wrong. Why? For Rava or Rav Sheshet, they took an axe and then they proved everything. Because because then you have no case of hoda'ah achar halava. What's hoda'ah halava? Hoda'ah halava was where Reuven saw that Solomon gave me $10,000 on Monday. And then I admitted to Shimon that he owes me $10,000. But according to right now, what you're saying is I tell Shimon, by the way, Reuven saw yesterday that he gave me the money, and you're now the same witness for that money. And then it says I have to go back to Reuven and tell Reuven, by the way, what you saw yesterday, I admitted to Shimon today. So now it's not anymore an admission after a loan. It's an admission after admission because I'm going back to Reuven and admitting to him again. So there is no case of admission after a loan. It's admission after admission after admission after admission. So why did Rav give the case of admission after a loan? Amar Leir Nachman said to Huda, this is what I heard about you. That you chop down trees and you replant them. You have the stage practice of resolving difficulties and then bringing them back up. I was so happy with the explanation you gave. Yeah, you destroyed the whole explanation. I don't know what to think again. So basically, we don't know what to do with Yeshua ben Korha. Do we hold of him? Do we not hold of him? We come to the final piece of the Gemara for today. That says as follows. Nahadre Omre, they said in the Nahadre, Ben Hoda'ah Hoda'ah. Whether he admits after admission, he admits on Monday, then he admits on Tuesday. Ben Hoda'ah Halavah. Or if he admits on Tuesday and on Monday the loan was, they saw him get the loan. Or Ben Halavah Halavah. But even if they saw a loan on Monday and then they saw a loan on Tuesday, or Ben Halavah Hoda'ah. Or if he admits to him on Monday that he has $10,000 that he owes him, and then on Tuesday they see the loan being given, mitzrafot, they all combine. Even if you see a loan after a loan, and even if there's an admission after a loan after an admission, they all combine. Command, Yeshua ben Korcha. All testimony combines. Exactly how does this work? Halacha said it is quite machloket. How this actually works. Because here the Gemara ends off. The halacha is like Yeshua ben Karch. So you're telling me if I see a loan on Monday and then I see a loan again on Tuesday, it's the same loan? How can that be? So let's just take a look at what it says in Shulchan Aruch. In cases of monetary law, even if the witnesses did not testify to the same incident, one testifies that the defendant borrowed money or admitted the debt on a certain day. The other witness testifies this happened on a different day. Or if one testifies that he saw the loan and the other witness admission, the testimonies are combined in accordance with the opinion of the Yeshua ben Korcha and the Chachamim of Nehardea. So halacha is like Yeshua ben Korcha. Now, the Mepharshim deal with this because if you see two loans, right? If on Monday you saw him give me $10,000, and on Tuesday you saw him give me $10,000, so he gave me $20,000. So what's going on? How can you combine it? So some say that the person, Solomon has to say that he owes me 20,000, even though you have a 10,000, one admission, we'll believe it, and I owe him 20. But if Solomon says he only owes me 10, and someone said I saw him on Monday and he gave 10, someone said I saw him on Tuesday he gave 10, then we won't believe it because it's someone's lying, right? That's one way to understand. Others say no. Solomon has to say $10,000 only, and we have to assume that one of the witnesses is making a mistake on the date. They forgot the date, and therefore it can only be 10. So exactly how this applies with money is quite confusing, because if you see a loan after a loan or a loan after an admission, you would assume that it's double. So do you believe the witnesses that the fact that he owes them money, how much? Or do you think the witnesses just made a mistake in the dates? Meiri deals with this. It remains a kasha. I mean, I'm not a dayan, not a judge. You can ask judges who deal with monetary laws, choshen mishpat, exactly how Yeshua ben Karcha's halacha works with loan after loan. But again, the Shulchan Aruch says that is the halacha, that we follow Yeshua ben Karcha, that testimonies, mixed testimonies that people saw on two separate days, does combine. Interesting halacha, but that is the halacha. And we'll finish
For both
over
land,
there.
money.
For land and money, yeah. The land is pashut, but money is the real question. Land is pashut because once you say it belongs to somebody, it belongs to somebody. It's the same piece of land. It's where money gets involved where it gets confusing because maybe it's a separate amount of money. What he saw on Monday, it might be different from Tuesday. The land is the same piece of land. We know this is the land he owns, and he said he gives someone, someone gets someone. Okay, Rabbatai, so we did 2 shiurim in one, and we just went over by 24 minutes. Not bad. Okay.
Moshe, did you take energy drink today?
Say again?
You took an energy drink today? You went overtime.
No, I'm actually coming out of a cold. No energy drink, just honey and lemon tea. It gets me through the day.
God bless you. Thank you.
God bless you. Thank you, everybody. Shavua tov.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Shavua tov.
Uh,